urban legends. The podcast about urban legends. Meet your host, that's right, Neil Chris Huntley. Good evening and welcome to this episode of Urban Legends, the intricate podcast exploring the world and the netherworld of urban legends. I am the operatic singer on the Warren G crossover hit Prince Igor from 1997, Chris Flynn. And with me as always, you wouldn't love him any other way, it is the mute savant, Mr.
Neil Herbert.
Hi Neil, how's your week been?
Yeah, okay, actually. Yeah, personally, it's been pretty good. There's some momentous events happening on the world stage we'll get into later.
Right. That's right. Did you, as a mute savant, did you foresee this happening? Like kind of a Nostradamus kind of thing? What is your savant power?
The ability to be able to speak, which you'll find for mute people is incredibly rare.
That is rare, isn't it? The ability to speak despite being...
It's a medical miracle, Chris. I mean, that's,
What do you say to those naysayers who claim that actually you're neither a savant nor mute?
I would...
It's quite insulting, isn't it?
Yeah, I find it a little bit, a little bit insulting, but it's... People have to be cynical about everything these days, don't they? So...
Well, I think that they
look at themselves and
look at themselves. Well, I doubt they can look themselves in the mirror without wailing, crying at what's looking back at them, which is their own sad, horrific reflection with all bits of chicken around their mouths, presumably. Tears, the mascara running,
some sort of vile sauce.
Yeah, covered in a tikka.
Smothered it in.
Tikka style sauce.
Oh, getting hungry now.
So, Neil, I think maybe because it's a bit sunnier, or I'm not sure, but I started doing daily push-ups in an attempt to make my tits more firm.
Nice. Are you up to double figures yet, or how are you doing?
I do sets of... So it's weird how quickly you get used to it, right? So First day I did about 30, like in sets of 10, and I'm about a week in and I'm doing 80 in sets of 20. So that's quite good, isn't it? That's a steep curve. So what I want to do is I want to get to doing 100 a day, apart from Sundays, because, God's day, innit?
Exactly.
Need a rest day. So just to make my tits a little higher and a little firmer.
I think I might have done about 80 push-ups in my life.
It's not bad.
Yeah.
Have you?
I don't know, I presume I did some at school or something.
Can't actually remember any instance.
PE was compulsory, yeah.
Would you have done them as part
Downhill
of
ever since.
When you were in the rugby club? Or was that just mainly drinking?
Rugby was mainly drinking, and Well, no, it was a lot of cross-country running. There's a lot of cross-country running, practicing a little bit of tackling and stuff. We never have enough people to practice a scrum properly, so we never had scrum machines.
So I was quite bad at cross-country running because I'm not really built for it. How were you at it?
Actually, I wasn't too bad.
Yeah,
it's just boring, isn't it? But I haven't said that. If there's like a load of you doing it, just like running around Hove Park, then it's kind of like, it's you're having a bit of a chat and stuff. The thing is, you see people's relative levels of fitness as well. So it's like there's one guy who wanted to go off and join the Marines, and he would just like be lapping us.
Oh, one of them.
Yeah.
Well, it's interesting, isn't it? Like in that kind of stuff, because I used to run quite regularly when I went to the gym quite regularly. So we're talking quite a while ago when I was in my late teens. And I never enjoyed it, but, I did it because I thought you were meant to.
Yeah.
But yeah, I've really like as you get a bit older, Neil, you listen to your body. So if I'm going to do cardio or something, I'd do a rowing machine or something now, because I'm just not built for running. I'm too bulky. It's not what my body's made for. I'm not like Mo Farah or something like that. I'm more like
too much punishment on the knees.
Yeah, punishment on the knees. I get terrible shin splints. I have to wear shoe inserts to cushion my arches, that kind of thing.
Nice.
Anyway, this isn't a fitness pod, is it, Neil? As much as fit as we are.
Just as well. Yeah.
As fit as we are. So, Neil, what are we talking about today that isn't fitness-based? Unless it is.
Yeah. So, we're going to go on a couple, actually. We're not going to get into it too much. So we'll come on to the subject of today in a second. I just wanted to give a shout-out to... so, sadly, the week that we're doing this, I'm not sure when this is going to go out. It might be all over by the time we actually we release this episode. But, just noticed, Chris, there's an exciting urban... Yeah, literally, I've just noticed this second. News flash on the news ticker. A new urban legend has emerged since we last spoke.
A new one?
Yeah.
Popping up all over the place, aren't they? Like mushrooms.
They is, yeah. And it's seeing one in real time. So, yeah, unfortunately, the week that we're recording this is the week that Russia has...
Putin's gone nuts.
Putin's gone mad.
He's gone bananas in the nut.
Oh, what's he done? But yeah, no. Have you heard about this Ghost of Kiev? So there's this fighter pilot. He's apparently taken down 6 Russian planes.
Oh,
there's some footage that they've released from a computer game, but it's basically
right. Nice. Was that Russian state media released that?
Yes, it's Russian today.
This is how war goes.
No, this is propaganda we were putting out for a Russian. Yeah, but no, it's basically one of these ones that's become, I think they call them an ace in a day when you shoot down 5 planes, which doesn't really happen anymore because, modern planes are sort of not designed to be doing dogfights and stuff. No. I think. I don't know anything about war. But yeah, no, it's kind of obviously a bit of a kind of symbol for Ukrainian resistance, and it's sort of an emerging urban myth, or say urban myth. It's an emerging kind of like urban story as we're sort of in the creation as we're.
Oh, what? So he's not actually a ghost; they just call him the ghost because they can't get him, sort of thing.
Yeah, exactly.
He's a fighter.
Yeah, I mean, no, there's been no confirmation about. They think it's probably unlikely that there's one fighter that's taken down 6. I don't know, as in terms of speaking, but it's become like a popular kind of narrative.
Well, it's like the one in. It's like when they had their version of Spring Heel Jack in the Czech Republic when it was under communist rule.
Oh yeah. And was he like standing up for the oppressed and stuff?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, doing that. So. Wow.
Much better than just harassing people on the streets of London and Liverpool.
Just some posh cunt. And it's like, it always seems to be against the Russians, doesn't it? It's weird. There's that Finnish guy who we spoke about who was like called the White Death, who's like the person with the most confirmed kills ever. It was like that. Finnish. It was when Russia tried to invade Finland, and he was
a sniper or something.
He was a sniper, yeah, and he had like something like 5,000 confirmed kills or something, and he was just like a farmer who was like quite good at hunting. Yeah, so I think the thing is Ukrainians are a tough people, and they're not going to roll over. And they've got a resistance force of about 10 million people. So I think Putin may have bitten off a little more than he can chew there. But
fingers crossed it ends quickly and with as little, bloodshed. I mean, and we're not going to sort of talk about that as the subject of this week because it's not.
And I would like to say as well, I don't consider the actions of Putin and his motley cabal of yes men to be indicative of the Russian people.
Russian people as a whole, I would certainly hope not. And
because they are, they're good people in general, and they've got a shit leader. And in the same way that I would hope that people in Iraq didn't think that the UK being involved in that was the will of the people, because it absolutely wasn't, because there are millions of people protesting it. So, sometimes these dickheads just do what they want.
Absolutely. But yeah, just, it's quite interesting to see that emerging in sort of real time as we're going along. So maybe when it's blown over, we may go back and have a look at it. But just wanted to sort of point that one out. And
just hot off the press, emerging legends.
And let's hope all things will work out for the best in Ukraine. Anyway, but what we're gonna be talking about today.
Would you say it's more important or less important than the war in Ukraine?
It's about Coca-Cola, Chris. So, you know.
I wanted to ask you: did you manage to shift all of your shares in Gazprom before this started, or not?
I said we weren't going to talk about that on air, Chris.
Oh, sorry. We'll talk about it off air.
We'll talk about it off air.
Did you manage to shift all your shares in Chelsea Football Club before this kicks off?
If I've legally changed my name to charity, was it Chelsea Charity Commission or whatever then, you know, none of your business.
Oh, okay.
Don't ask, don't tell.
Seems all above board. And you've got your
look. If a Premiership,
you've got your new passport from Malta, yeah.
If a Premier League fit and proper person integrity test passes me to be a proper person, what more stringent and rigorous investigation into the morals and ethics of a character could there be, Chris?
I can't imagine that there is one.
You'll be saying next.
They're all upstanding citizens with
our own sports and the upstanding city of London have somewhat contributed to the current situation by the massive.
Did you manage
and laundering of money and God knows what else happens in this country?
Did you manage to shift all those properties you own in London to a different shell corporation in the Cayman Islands?
I've just got an algorithm that does it automatically now, to be honest with you. Who can keep track? I don't even know what I own anymore, Chris.
Did you manage?
I don't know what horrifically despotic regime I made in 1 week from now.
Did you manage to get your peerage sorted out from the Conservative Party by donating plenty to them?
They're going plenty cheap. Don't worry. You'd be amazed what you can buy for $5 million these days, Chris.
So Nielinski, Herbertsv.
It's more you pay for the political influence on democratic policy, but your sort of peerage is like buy one get one free.
Right,
that's just a nice little balance.
That's nice. You put it at the bottom of your
so, really the
makes it easier to open corporations.
The lobbying investment is for the influence, but yeah, you get it's nice to get a day out with the Queen, isn't it?
Yeah, lovely.
Get recognised for your charitable endeavours.
Yeah, but the Chelsea
benefit directly yourself. Yeah, well, they need to, bless them. They haven't won the Champions League for a couple of years. I mean, look, do you remember
last year?
Do you remember back in the 70s and 80s and 90s what a force they were, winning Premier League titles all the time?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, add up to 10,000 people turning up to Stamford Bridge. Second division team. What I will say, though, I was quite amused that a controversial hacking collective, Anonymous, have started hacking Russia. So they hacked their state TV, and so it was just playing Ukrainian national songs, and they hacked all the government websites and took them down, and started putting different news reports up, which actually show what's going on in Ukraine over the Russian state-controlled media. So that's fun, isn't it? Russia loves a bit of hacking.
Yeah.
I like it up.
Well, it should be interesting times. Yeah, as I say, just one hopes it sort of resolves itself.
Well, it's kind of weird. It's one of those which is unusual where pretty much the whole world seems to be in agreement, pretty much, apart from Belarus, obviously. But, even because Russia was thinking, we can probably get...
Well, China at the very best sitting on their hands. And
because they're not
Viktor Orbán is to condemn them.
Yeah, and Turkey is... Yeah. I've just heard say they're closing the Bosphorus Strait to Russian ships. So that's good. So they can't get into the Black Sea.
Getting their car payments cut off, so they're not going to be able to go down the 24-hour petrol station and get a kebab. Or buy a kebab at a petrol station. I suppose you can these days. It's a filthy world we live in.
And the thing is as well, right, I think they were sort of banking on China backing them, but China's like, I mean, we want the most influence around Asia, to be honest. So,
yeah, the thing is, I mean. You're Deng Xiaoping. You're going to do something very considered, and not. I think the thing that is I think he's
in a way with Confucian.
Well, it's the thing is because there was a lot, as you were saying earlier about that there's this is turning slightly into the sort of it's interesting how it comes out, so we'll see what we're keeping. But there's been a lot of, as we were sort of having a conversation offline before, the sort of real politic and stuff that's been doing, and you always kind of thought that as much as you sort of like didn't particularly care for the chat, Putin was quite a savvy player, and
savvy operator.
How they would sort of like interfere with Western democracies and things like this, and
I mean, I don't agree with his tactics, but to be honest, for 30 years he's played a bit of a blinder, I would say, for what he was trying to achieve. But he
seems to have gone off the deep end.
He's gone off the boil. Well, he's terribly afraid of COVID, isn't he? He's like deathly afraid of it, even though he.
Oh, really?
Exists. Like he's literally. I don't want to get like a Howard Hughes style character. He's like that, but because he thinks that COVID will kill him.
Mutter in a room with like boxes of tissues on his feet and stuff like that.
Yeah, building the spruce moose.
He wants to get some mafia lads to sort of surround him in his.
Going to try and his hotel room in a big, massive plane made out of wood.
Yeah, I think when you've got that amount of money and power, and you're not used to people sort of intervening with reality, I think it's just I
think he's lost his grip a bit on reality. I think the worst thing that people can do is surround themselves with yes men. But I think that it's almost an inevitable consequence of having absolute power for 30 years that you don't want to hear. You pretty much just think, I know what I'm doing and everything I say has worked so far, so it's always going to be right. And so anyone who tells you opposite, you just go, gulag.
Yeah. And, maybe ourselves in the sort of West probably shouldn't just like, look the other way because there's money rolling in terms of various.
Well, I wouldn't say. Well, I mean, I would completely agree with that, and I would say the people in charge in the UK have a lot to answer for because it is number one destination for corrupt Russian people to invest their money / move to, because they can buy. Like if you invest. In case people didn't know, there's a golden visa system here, which was implemented by Labour. I will say that. And it means that if you invest £2 million into the UK, and invest could mean you buy yourself a £2 million flat, right, in Kensington, then you get a visa, no questions asked, basically, to be able to stay here indefinitely. So we might kind of make a joke about people being able to, or I might make a joke about people being able to buy a Cypriot passport or a Maltese passport or anything. It's no different in the UK, it just costs more. So, it's fucking corrupt as shit.
But the wonderful thing is you can get like a knighthood on the side as well if you invest enough.
Lovely, yeah. Part of the establishment. Beautiful. Yes. Get your kids into Oxford.
Have a night out with Theresa May and Liz Truss.
Well, I mean, there's downsides.
Yeah.
Farage and Theresa May.
I can't remember who it was, but it was one of these one of the sort of more interesting.
Would you like me to laugh?
Yeah. Oh yeah. Boris Johnson still can't be bothered to comb his hair when he's coming out academic. Because I think the thing is now it's like, what will cause him to actually run a comb through his fucking head?
Who?
Oh, our Prime Minister. He's just...
Oh, nothing will.
No, yeah, exactly.
No, nothing will. But
why would it? Just like, that's his big Chichilian moment, and he's just coming out like he's just fucking woken up, rolled out of bed.
Crumbs all over down his suit.
Barbarous nonsense or whatever it is. I can't even watch the guy anymore. Anyway,
that's that.
Let's move on.
You will have to...
We'll have to think about what we keep in there, and if we do keep it in, then absolutely. And I'll just say to everyone,
I just want to say sorry to the listeners.
Yeah, this is fresh news to us, so it's obviously
we're 3 days into the invasion, and just wanted to kind of we just wanted to chat about it really, of what our thoughts are. But our main thought is with the Ukrainians who don't deserve any of this shit and are doing a bloody good job at the moment of pushing the Russians back. I mean, I like the fact that the Russian troops are surrendering quite a lot because they've been told a fucking pile of shit of the reason that they're going in there in the first place. And when they find out that it's all lies, they're like, right, well, I'm not going to fight my brothers over lies. So
no, absolutely.
I think they wanted to essentially blitzkrieg, and and before anyone could really find out what was going on, and because they're now getting bogged down, then the information's getting to the troops, and I think hopefully they will they'll say, well, we're not going to do this.
Yeah, no. Hopefully, it will resolve as quickly and with as little bloodshed as possible.
And I'd like to give a shout out to our ancient kingdom of the Republic of Ireland, who dropped all visa requirements for anyone from the Ukraine to be able to get safe passage and live in Ireland should they want to. They've given them an open door to go there to safety. So
imagine having a government to be proud of.
Yeah, we're not doing anything like that.
Of course not. No. Nigel Farage.
It would be very awkward for the oligarchs strutting around London if suddenly a load of Ukrainians turned up, and that the government wouldn't want that.
Yeah, we got to turn our capital into
the top 1% of our country have picked their
for Disneyland for autocratic regimes, haven't we? So how's that going to pan out if we let the oi polloi in? Right, she'll all be living outside of Zone 6, just travelling in to clean their mansions. That's what the world should look like. Anyway, no, let's stop before we turn it into an entire podcast about that. That's just what's going on, guys. So it's big news. So we felt, I don't know if we've bound. We don't really feel duty bound to anything, but it's just something that we're talking about at the moment. It's on our minds, so we
came up.
Chat about it.
Guys, it just came up. Generally, I was going to say we stick away from religion and politics, but that's absolute bullshit. We're constantly taking the piss out of religion and politics. So, not sure where I was going with that.
I'm going to, I'll do one about some popes next week. Right.
The Borgias.
The British territory, yeah. Pope Innocent, not so much.
Hey, it's ironic then, pussycat. Hey, I like to make prostitutes crawl on the floor and collect walnuts. Innocente, wink, wink. What's the matter? You don't like fun? Hey, I'm the Pope. I'm fucking grateful.
Oh, Pope is honey.
Hey, get the guy some wine, huh?
Pope like to fuck. Anyways, no, stop. Another time. Right.
Hey, if God don't want me to fuck, why do I have such a big erection, eh?
I love how the Pope has just turned into fucking Scarface. Oh my God. What's he doing with that cassock? Right. That's where the little hat comes from.
Say hello to the Cardinal. Yeah. Cardinal Bang Bang.
So, my final attempt to try and translate. This is around.
Speaking about Cardinal Bang Bang.
Speaking about unholy popes.
This
is about the new Coke hoax, or the new Coke conspiracy. So this is one of those ones where we're kind of treading into conspiracy theory territory.
Well, so I'll just say very quickly, the only thing I know about New Coke was that it was brought out and people went, it tastes worse, and then they went back to the old Coke. That's all I know about it.
That's literally it, Chris. Well done. No, it's kind of...
well, score.
Well, actually, it's yeah, there we go, yeah. No, it's actually... There's a bit more to it than that, and it's kind of like, I don't know, because I was surprised that... So New Coke, eventually it became... So just a bit about it. So this was back in the 80s, and I mean, I don't think came across... I don't think it was ever even necessarily in the UK.
I don't think so.
Apparently,
Tab Clear, which I think was Pepsi.
Yeah, I can't remember that. That was the one you would
It was clear.
It was you pour it into a glass and it looked like water.
Well, no,
just demonstrating that whatever was in it was just
so it looked like lemonade basically, but it tastes like Coke. Yeah, and
there was one that was completely clear. I think.
Yeah, Tab Clear, and it actually came in a clear can as well, like a plastic.
See, I remember buying one of these clear drinks and I had to pour it into a glass. It was like, oh wow, that's clear, but it tastes a bit like whatever, a soft drink. That's interesting. Except it came in a can that wasn't clear, thus negating the entire point.
Well, it might have been different. So I was So I remember having Tab Clear when I was still living in London. So we're talking late 80s.
Yeah, I mean, I bought this like once. I think it was just like a novelty thing, but
yeah,
and I think it might have been. This is probably the 90s, so it was probably the fact that it was probably like a niche product at that point because everyone probably went out, bought one can, and then went, yeah, whatever.
Yeah,
and I suspect manufacturing a clear can probably is more expensive as well, so it probably didn't justify the margins or what have.
Plus, you could. That's the problem with that is you could always see the amount of mice in the cans.
Yeah.
If anyone wants to go back and listen to our least popular episode ever, Soda Mouse.
Yeah, we thought we'd revisit the soda territory, see if because we're coming with a big hitter. This is about Coke, which is like the biggest brand in the world, more or less. I don't know. I mean, Apple technically, I suppose, but
most recognisable brands, maybe.
Yeah,
maybe.
That was the premise of a whole movie in the 80s, wasn't it? God Must Be Crazy. Okay, anyway, so...
Well, it's not a difficult brand to recognise because their brand logo is just their name written. So,
Yeah.
Not...
I mean, but it's iconic, isn't it? It's iconic, and you hear about, I mean, it's one of those things...
People seem to like it who are into that kind of stuff. So, like, people like... When you watch stuff like... what do they call it? There's that programme where they go around and find stuff in barns and then go and sell it in their shop. Storage, not Storage Hunter.
Hunt for a bargain or bargain
Salvage. No, it's an American one. It's like Salvage Hunters or something like that. And they're always
there's about 2 million of these fucking shows. I can't be doing with it.
I don't mind it. It's all right.
It's fine, but I haven't got the mental bandwidth to remember this stuff.
I'll be honest with you. It doesn't take up a huge amount of mental bandwidth to watch.
It'll be one of those ones. If I go and visit my parents, we'll end up watching something like that. It'll either be like the one where they all do the B&Bs or they cook each other dinner.
I don't watch any of those. Like
it's all on the thing.
They're the English ones, aren't they? Like four in.
Yeah, the one thing like this, I will admit to watching occasionally on YouTube. I become weirdly fascinated where you'll see these YouTube things and it'll be like they'll find some like rusty old cleaver or something, or just like a lantern that's been like completely like it just fit for nothing, and then they'll like sandblast it and re-clean it and just make it like new. So it's like weirdly therapeutic just watching them. Yeah, we're just people they'll have just like a DIY channel and they'll just take something and just like it looks like completely not fit for anything, and then they just make it look brand new. Have you thought
about maybe building a workshop in your back garden so you could do stuff like that?
Well, no, but I was looking at something because I just end up buying equipment and then not using it. But I was seeing something somewhere, and I keep an eye on this. Apparently, you're starting to see workshops springing up around the country. So because people can't afford all of this.
I know of one in Brighton.
Oh, okay.
So down near, very local, this down near the Gyratory on
I know.
Road has kind of all the woodworking tools, all the metalworking tools, all of that kind of stuff, and you can just hire the space for the day. And it's also got like artist space and office space. It's just like
stuff like that. Yeah,
I think that's really good. Going there and building a chair or something.
I did woodwork when I was
back from sitting in a chair that snaps.
Yeah. Yeah, because I wouldn't want to like buy a lathe or something like that. I just wouldn't use it. But
well, there we go. Should we do that, Neil? We'll go there and go. I don't know what any of this stuff does.
Yes, let's go down and have some horrific injury. I'm
gonna chrome my hand.
Yeah. Some equivalent of a foreman on the site is just there to keep idiots from injuring themselves. No, sorry, that's...
Yeah, but there's
what are you doing with that molten metal?
Drinking it?
Yeah. I'm going to coat my insides with aluminium and then I'll be like, what's his face? Wolverine. I'll be like Wolverine. Yeah, I could have any kind of curry.
But yeah, there's a few of them in Brighton, but that's one which I was looking at. I can't remember why I was going to go there. I think... Because I've got that old DG 3/4 size bass that I want to make into a clock because it's fucked to ever be used as a guitar again. But I've got to do some like. I'll be honest with you. I'm not a carpenter. I've got to do some tool stuff to it so I can
bit of routing.
Well, I want to give it a good old sand down, and I want. I'm going to have to drill out or grout out or gouge out like a bit for the clock mechanism to sit in and that kind of stuff. So, and I don't have an outside space. I live in a flat, so I was thinking, I might go there for the day, see what happens.
Give it a go, yeah. Well, I imagine you sort of let them know what you're looking to do, because there's people there who give you a bit. Just tell them.
I'll just turn up.
Just tell me where everything is. Just do it myself. Just experiment.
Yeah. Have you used this before? Probably. Yeah. Probably be fine, mate. Got YouTube. Well, I do my own dental work now, so I don't see why I shouldn't do that.
That's true. Right.
Not like I don't do extractions, but yeah, I gave my teeth I got a kit to do. Yeah, I got rid of all the plaque, gave it a nice clean up, polish, beautiful. Teeth look nice there. Got rid of all the fag stains, didn't I?
Now,
Coca-Cola.
One of the reasons why you might want to clean your teeth is if you're drinking too much Coke. That brings me neatly to the full attempt of our new Coke. So I don't recall it having been launched. I don't know if it ever existed in the UK. I don't know if Coke 2, as it was rebranded, ever existed in the UK. I don't remember coming across them. As we established, there was Tab Clear, which may have impacted. But so it's back in 1985, Chris. So Arnold Schwarzenegger's just started to become a big movie star. It's back of the Terminator. Having all of those great movies. Reagan's in the White House. Thatcher's in office. Yeah.
Commando.
I told you I'd kill you last. I lied. That was terrible, terrible. Arnold Schwarzenegger. And I got the saying wrong as well. Anyway,
it was a masculine time.
It was a different time. It was
masculine. Muscular neoconservatism. I would say that the Wall Street.
Good, Chris.
Grig is good.
Yes, for want of a better phrase.
Loads of money.
Oh yeah, Harry Enfield. Back in his, mind you, he was more like 87, 88, wasn't he? I think loads of money.
I don't know.
He was probably a young up and coming comic at that point, just catching up with Charlie Eagson and Paul Day or whatever, starting to launch his hilarious comedic.
White House even. Paul Day, did I say? So someone I work with, I think, but
not
a comedian. It's very sensible.
Yeah, it's not. It works in IT. I don't even. It never really struck me as. No, Paul Day does the fishing show with what's his name? Bob Smith.
Bob Smith. Yeah. Oh no, he works in facilities.
Yeah. Right. So, at this point, actually, Cola's losing market share to Pepsi year on year. So they're still the biggest brand.
Didn't they?
Yeah, get Jackson. It's the Pepsi generation, Chris. Remember that? That was the other thing.
The taste of a new generation.
Rip-roaring 80s was the taste of a new generation was coming through. Everyone liked
Gen Zers wouldn't touch Coke. They only have Pepsi.
Yeah, they'd only have
latterly Virgin Cola. The Branson Cola.
Like Gen X, so like Panda Pops.
So
but I get into all that. So yeah, they're kind of worried that they're going to finally lose market share to Pepsi because they've been growing year on year, and it's kind of like if they get to that point, and they've just bought out Diet Coke.
We made a big mistake taking cocaine out of the drink.
Yeah. Oh man, if they'd reformulated to that, we would drink a lot more Coca-Cola.
I'd be having some now. I mean, I wouldn't have to mix my own.
Yeah. Yeah, it's gotten price, hasn't it? I mean, never mind about the electricity prices.
You don't need electricity if you've got nose electricity.
Some proper Coca-Cola. Original recipe. Cool. Yeah, so 70s and 80s, Pepsi gets bigger and bigger, and they're doing these Pepsi challenge adverts, and their big thing is that actually they've got the, everyone agrees in blind taste tests that it's the best tasting Coke that you can buy. And then they've done their own kind of internal results. So they're looking at why they're losing market share. They've just bought out Diet Coke, which is selling quite well. But in terms of General Coke, they're losing ground to Pepsi, and they're worried that they're going to get to a point Pepsi's going to be able to claim, well, actually now we're the number one brand in the US. Cool. So they did some of their own internal taste tests, and they're like, actually, apparently it does taste better. And the thing is, they had, as we've just kind of like discussed, that their secret recipe had been tweaked several times. So, they've taken the cocoa leaf down a notch. And they've changed around with some of the sweeteners and things like that. So they have sort of tweaked with it over the years, but they decide they're going to do a bold new gambit.
Back to the drawing board.
Yeah.
Throw it all out.
You didn't get where we were today by not making bold decisions about sugar water that we're going to sell to kids. Okay. So the chairman and CEO, Roberto Gozzetto, I'm not pronouncing that correctly, Roberto Gozzetta, I think, stepped before the press gathered at New York City's Lincoln Center to announce a new formula, which he declared to be smoother, rounder, yet bolder, a more harmonious flavour. And basically, lovely bit of corporate. By the way, I didn't announce at the start. I'm just reading this off of. We've gone again to the History Channel's website, history.com, source of a lot of our work. And then so they bring this out as the new Coke that they're going to do. And another phrase that came out with. So some may choose to call this the boldest single marketing move in the history of the packaged goods business. We simply call it the surest move ever made.
Sorry.
And the Coca-Cola president, so apparently that's Theo and the president of different things, he echoed the certainty. I've never been as confident about a decision as I am about the one we're announcing today. So with that kind of buy-in from your senior stakeholders, obviously this must have been an absolute masterpiece of marketing, and they carried the day, obviously, didn't they, Chris? New Coke was an absolute revelation, and everyone just flew off the shelves.
I tend to split the modern age into pre and post New Coke, but it was that much of a seismic shift in culture. And also in refreshment.
Absolutely. I mean,
it was a brave new, bold, round taste.
Yeah, we all tie ourselves into whether we were pre-Coke or post-Coke, and then whether or not you don't. I mean, an actual fact. So they'd confirmed in taste tests that people preferred the taste of New Coke to Pepsi and to Coke. So they had actually put a lot of effort into this, and.
Put more sugar in it.
Yeah, but they did. Put
some MSG in it.
Yeah, put MSG in it. A bit of beef fat as well. People like that.
Lovely.
Yeah, whatever the market research says. And apparently, and I think at first, actually, it did start to sell
enough.
Quite well. More butter.
More butter.
Fry it as well. You can actually. There was a place in. I can't remember, but there's one of these fairs where they fry things, and they did have fried cola balls, which is quite impressive.
All right.
Alongside fried butter, which is one of the other. Yeah. Sounds like a little bit too much of a good thing, but there you go.
Well, I mean, I really like fried cheese, like Saganaki.
Yeah, it's true. Saganaki delicious.
Fried cheese. That's gorgeous.
It's more of a kind of like just making the cheese melty, though, isn't it? That's the thing. So, yeah, anyway, so... It started out quite well, but then it just started to sort of go off of a nosedive, and shares of Coca-Cola dropped. So no, it didn't. So the bold gambit didn't pan out so well in the long term, Chris. Yeah. But the thing is, they had done all the market research. Probably they'd done all the taste testing, and in actual fact, people did supposedly prefer in blind taste tests than their new recipe against this and anything else. But Pepsi obviously,
was it people feared change?
Well, here's what we'll come into in a second. So there's a couple of things to and how much you can actually test. How much you can trust some of these blind taste tests. 'Cause there's a lot of theories that go around, but just to say here that this is quite a funny one. Pepsi gave its employees the day off after the shares dropped and declared a victory in a full-page newspaper advertisements that boasted, after 87 years of going eyeball to eyeball, the other guy just blinked. I imagine the corporate hubris. I imagine the cocaine was high in the corporate offices that afternoon.
Oh, I would have loved to have been there.
Oh.
Whoa.
Good Lord.
Coked off your nut, champagne.
Anything goes. It's like the fucking purge that day if you're in the PepsiCo board. Nothing is off.
Yeah. I bet the madams of New York did well that evening. The next day, they declared a holiday. Oh dear.
Because this is apparently they were fielding 5,000 angry phone calls a day, and then that went up to 8,000 a day by June. But apparently, what seems to have happened? So there's two things.
Angry phone calls.
Yeah.
Why do you know about my precious Coca-Cola?
And bear in mind, you're in the middle of an AIDS crisis here. You've got, unemployment current throughout. And what makes you angry? The fact that Coke have changed their recipe, and you can still buy the original. So I think they they had shelved actually the original thing. And I think that they came out with Coke Classic. So 79 days after the initial announcement, they came out to
Coke Classic
to say that you can now buy it under Coke Classic because. So, okay, and their reasons I think are fair enough. Is they didn't want to split the market between two different products. Again, they didn't want to be said that they didn't want Pepsi to have the kind of be able to say, well, the new we now sell better than this particular Coke brand. Because also,
I understand that, but on the other hand, I would say, that's one way of looking at it, Pepsi. But on the other hand, Coca-Cola sells more than Pepsi.
Overall, you'd say that, but I don't know. They had a big thing about not sort of, they wanted to split the market and give them that kind of, I don't know, that market.
This is the number one Coke derivative that's bought.
Yeah, overall between Diet and Coke 2 and Coke 1. And it's Coke 3 and it tastes fucking awful, but this guy in Vancouver likes it, so fair enough. We'll carry on making it.
Which is weird because that's nothing to do with the American market, which is what we care about.
One disgruntled drinker wrote to company headquarters, I don't think I'd be more upset if you were to burn the flag in our front yard.
So they did that.
Yeah, so they went and did that, and so that went.
Oh no, it's another misstep.
And then that got on national news, and Reagan condemned.
But I've never been more confident that this is what America
this is a bold.
wants to see.
Honestly, guys,
the Coca-Cola.
We're hitting it out of the park this day. This is the new Coca-Cola burnable flags range. It's gonna be good. While you're enjoying the best soda on earth, you can also be burning the flag.
Keep yourself warm by burning flag.
It did not go down well. No, and apparently, actually, it's when it first came out, supposedly it sold quite well. What they reckon it was, or so some of the sort of reading I've done around this. They think that actually, when they did the blind taste tests, firstly, there's a bit of speculation about actually, because you're just taking a small sip, you something that's inherently sweeter, you'll prefer a little bit of, but trying to get through a whole can of it actually might be a bit different. Because they're all just like overly sweet sugar waters, but I must confess, I don't particularly care for Pepsi. I find it too sweet. But supposedly in blind taste tests, it does come out more. I mean, they're all over processed, and I don't tend to buy any of them, to be honest with you. But
I drink a lot of sugar-free / diet Coca-Cola.
Yeah, if I'm having something like that, I might go. But I might prefer, if I want something sweet, I'd prefer like an iced tea or something like that. Hey. Oh, you're a Pepsi generation.
Diet Pepsi right now.
Fair days.
But to be honest, I just like any diet Coke-based drink. So in my fridge, I've got Co-op own brand 60p for 2 litres diet Coke drink, and that's fine. I just quite like it.
Yeah, no, fair enough. It's sort of horses for courses, isn't it? I mean, I don't mind the.
It's replaced alcohol for me.
No, fair days. I quite like Fentimans do like probably what's more akin to the original one actually, which I don't mind. It's probably a bit too sweet, but it's got a bit more of a sort of botanical kind of flavour going on. It's a bit more complex, I'm that kind of idiot. Pretentious wanker.
But IPA, botanical Cokes.
But I reckon there was like a twofold.
Open-faced fucking Vietnamese sandwiches. Don't know what's going on here now. What's wrong with a pork pie?
Pork pie, smothered in mustard, and a nice diet Pepsi on the side with no ice, thanks. Fill it to the top. They think that actually, so it might be that this sort of blind taste testing actually doesn't work that well in reality. The other thing,
the blind taste test should only be, and this may sound really obvious because it is, the taste test should be done. You should be given the amount of the product that that people would normally have. So like a can of it or whatever, rather than a little thimbleful. Do you know what I mean?
I guess it's going to be difficult to do that under laboratory conditions because it's not, you just give them a can of the thing, or the equivalent volume. But then they've got to sit there for like half an hour while they drink it, I guess.
No one takes half an hour to drink a can.
Whatever,
Well, so what? Like,
Yeah, they're pretty rich, aren't they? They can afford to do it. Well, anyway, some people say that's that might be part of it. So, did people truly prefer the flavour or not? So, they're flawed tests, and this is the thing with a lot of these things. I remember when I was at uni, we did a test once that was quite funny. It was like, I can't remember, it was something like the heart rates in people with different coloured hair. And it was just to show how, it's really important to make sure you minimise variables. And so what they'd done is just the first lot were separated in from one particular coloured hair, and then the second lot had lower levels of resting heart rate. It was just because the first lot had actually had to climb up some stairs beforehand. So but they just did it on purpose to say, well, this, design an experiment. This is the kind of thing that
I remember being in reception, so that's like pre-primary school, and they were teaching us how bad sugary drinks were in the class. And so they said, a bottle of Coca-Cola, 2-litre bottle, has like 30 spoons of sugar in it or whatever. And they did that in like 30 spoons of sugar into just water.
Yeah.
And then like passed it around, say, see how sugary this tastes. And the kids all just really liked it. I remember the guy next to me was like, I had some, and then I said that I hadn't got any, so I got some more. They were like, the kids are like, wee! So, although it taught us that, what it taught me was that kids really like sugar.
Yes. Well, the thing is as well, it's that,
I didn't really drink fizzy drinks. I pretty much grew up on squash.
Yeah, that's what we had
concentrate, whatever
as well.
Call it.
Yeah, which are a bit less sweet, and it tends to be more sort of fruit, or they're quite sweet, but they're fruit juice based rather than kind of like artificial sugars.
Yeah, it's just mainly water.
Yeah. But no, absolutely, and it's kind of, but but people do, and also, well, it's one of those balances. They reckon this can be a problem with a lot of the so-called sort of low-fat foods. They substitute sugar instead, which just stores as fat. So there's absolutely no point whatsoever pretending that's low fat.
Sugar's the worst one, really.
Yeah, because it converts immediately into that sort of energy. Or it's quick. Anyway, so. Yeah, and they reckon that actually, So they think that part of what it was is that where they would test people, but then when they what they couldn't actually ask them was, so do you prefer the taste of this to this? Yesterday, would you prefer it if that replaced the normal recipe of Coke? That was one thing they couldn't ask because they didn't want to let them know that they were planning on doing something different. But they did sort of ask, well, something that inferred something along those lines. I can't remember exactly what the question was. And 10% of the respondents would get very angry about this. And what they actually found is that there was, it became a bit of a backlash, they reckon, of people just, whether they prefer the taste or not is debatable. That's one thing. But also people really kind of like, what they do know from market research afterwards is that people really kind of, they bought into the whole concept that they've been selling them for 100 years, that Coke is like this iconic American brand and it's number one and it's, the original and the best and all the rest of it. And so people got an emotional attachment to it. And, weirdly, but but this is how brands work. And the thing is, as much as we can sort of turn our nose up at it, branding does work on we've all got subconscious, desires and all the rest of it. And advertising must work because they ain't spending that money for nothing. I don't think any of us are.
Yeah. You
can be savvy about it, but I think,
I would say advertising works in it will give me an awareness of something. I don't think advertising works in a positive way in getting me to buy something. Advertising generally, for me, tends to make me not want something. So, there are many reasons why I don't like Apple, but Apple's pretentious, go get an Apple, be a cool guy kind of advertising turns me off, and I would never have Apple products, partially because of that, partially because I don't like their closed shop mentality where you have to have only Apple products, because I don't agree with that. I like PCs because I can just do what I want. So, but a lot of, to be honest, maybe I'm unusual, but in a lot of ways, me becoming aware of things makes me dislike them more than like them. So I kind of prefer to go and do my own research and get stuff.
To an extent, but the Coke you're drinking is a particular brand. So you might say, actually,
But that's the only one which that's the only one which that was the cheapest one which they sold in the Tesco's local, which is 3 minutes.
Which might be driven by customer demand, which might be driven by advertising. There's different ways that these.
If they had the Tesco's own brand stuff, I would have got that.
No,
this was cheaper than Diet Coke. But
anyway, look, my point is that I think none of us are completely immune to branding. Maybe you are, but I think on the whole, people generally, it does have a subconscious effect.
I think awareness. I think something. I mean, for some reason, and I've just been told or whatever, for some reason I think Bang & Olufsen do good music stuff, but that doesn't make me want to go and buy Bang & Olufsen stuff particularly. Yeah. But I think they're good. But I don't know if they're that good compared to what they cost.
To the price, absolutely not. No.
And
your comments on Apple, and that's exactly what Bang & Olufsen are like. It's a lot of style over substance in a lot of ways. Anyway, I mean, there's better products out there. But, But now we come to the crux of the.
We're getting to the conspiracy now.
We're getting to the conspiracy now, yeah. So here's the thing. So the next phase of this, actually, so they've had to bring out the new Coke and Coke Classic, and eventually they basically reversed tack after the sort of a bit of a debacle.
It's a disaster.
It didn't work out so well in the long term, so they changed New Coke to Coke 2. Bought back the old version of Coke. But here's the sting in the tail. Actually, their market share then went massively up. So people started buying Coke much, much higher rates than they did beforehand.
Right.
So,
so they took a short-term loss for a long-term gain.
Well, this is the kind of theory that people have. So there's a few different ones that fly around. So one is like, well, they're quite savvy players. They've always done very well. Did they just actually create an artificial demand for the original product?
Make a shit Coke.
Make something that would annoy everyone.
How much they missed real Coke.
Yeah, they'd buy into the original one, and then it'll fly off the shelves when we bring it back up. And you hear people saying things like, or they're supposedly rumours of on the bottling plants they were still doing the original versions of Coke and bottling it up and then sort of stacking it off to one side and what have you. Yeah. Another theory that's gone around is around this time is when they switched to high fructose corn syrup.
Right.
So there's a theory that actually they wanted to switch from cane sugar to high fructose corn syrup because it's a lot cheaper. So, they just basically had all of this stuff and then brought back the original recipe. So again, come out with a recipe people will like worse. Go back to the original recipe, but we've swapped out one of the key ingredients to be cheaper.
So they used a bridging recipe. So between the Coke with cane sugar and the Coke with high fructose. So they had a bridging one, so when people went back to the
original, they didn't notice the difference.
And they didn't really notice the difference, right?
Because people.
So it's not exactly microchips in the Coke. Then it's actually the conspiracy is potentially.
I don't know. It might be there might have been some kind of mind control that they were trying to incorporate. I don't know. It's. I'm not anti-vaccine, Chris. I just want to ask reasonable questions. God, I was listening to this guy. I was waiting for a bus the other week, and most obnoxious toss. The problem is, when people are quite satisfied with their opinion and they just need to sort of like shout it quite loud across the street when they're having a conversation with.
As a podcaster, I don't know what that would be like.
You do on a podcast, people could decide whether they want to listen or not. Do you know what I mean? I don't know. It's something where there's somebody, and this poor chap who's sitting with him, and he's just getting berated with this fucking shite this guy was talking. And all of the guys of, and it's kind of like the not so subtle. Well, you can't think for yourself, so why don't I think for you? Explain to you how the world works. Well, I assume so.
Right.
I mean, because this guy was really an insufferable prick. I mean, you believe whatever you want to believe, man, that's fine. But it's just this hectoring tone, and I think pretty much everything he was saying was bullshit. But it was with a real air of self-righteousness and self-certainty. Spike proteins are toxic, Chris. Don't you know that? Literally putting a toxin in the vaccines. Why is that never reported on? It's not a fact. That'd be the reason for that, mate. I know you've said with certainty it is, but actually it's not. So anyway, I'm probably coming across like that myself now. But no, it's just. Well, I mean, I don't know whether it's just me, but it's just I could really pick up on everything he was saying, and it just when you feel like somebody's almost like what's the word? Doing a bit of a performance rhetorically. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? It's like I'm not just talking to my friends. It's quite
talking to everybody. Yeah.
I'm
so
sort of just broadcasting
to
the local region, which is just this fat lad at the bus stop and my mate and then one other person standing there. I've got to stop going to that bus stop.
Just remind me again what you were doing your masters in.
Biochemistry.
Right, so maybe you would know slightly more about him.
I'm not an epidemiologist, but I know nothing about.
I know, but I mean,
the main thing is just do your fucking research. But if you're gonna want to challenge and all the rest of it, then don't just go to the first source that you've seen and then go, aha. Cross-reference your sources is what I would argue for anyone who wants to do their own research.
I would say all like is in the disclaimer. All stuff said on this is not. It's our own opinion and stuff. So the stuff about Russia and stuff,
absolutely.
I've not got. I know more about it than I've said here, and I haven't gone in depth. But in no way do I consider myself an arbiter of truth. I mean, this is just my view on it.
This is purely an opinion-based podcast. Yes, we're not. Geopolitical experts or anything else.
I don't get involved in arguments and stuff for people on the internet or anything like that because at the end of the day, information's out there. Come to your own conclusions. Do you know what I mean?
Well, absolutely. And I think, at the end of the day, anyone who genuinely probably has enough expertise to engage with that argument probably won't waste their time engaging with you on the internet. So,
Oh, exactly.
Got better.
And also, some people, unfortunately, people aren't really interested in. It's kind of post-truth, isn't it? People aren't really interested in actual facts or.
Well, no, I'll tell you what I think. What it is, Chris.
Or empirical evidence or anything like that.
It's because I think people come to these things with a set of beliefs, but people don't want to, especially when you get someone who's like, oh, well, I'm an atheist and I'm entirely rational and I don't, I act on pure logic. I am Spock. It's like, actually, no, everyone has biases. Everyone has, everyone has blind spots. Everyone has beliefs that they have to get around. And we all do. That's inevitable.
Well, that's why I say I'm agnostic because, being an atheist is no different.
Yeah, exactly.
It's no different than believing in a religion, really, because at the end of the day, it's an unknowable. It's a knowable unknowable.
No. Likewise, it's not something that you can ever know. And when I say, I'm projecting as somebody who's like that. It's kind of like I'm this pure rational being. Yeah. I think the most irrational thing you can think is to think that human beings are completely logical. If that you've really not thought or felt it through.
Atheism is as irrational as any religion is, because you might say, well, believing in a God's irrational because where's the proof? But where's the proof that it doesn't exist?
Oh, absolutely.
So each of them is equally irrational.
From a pure logical perspective, they're equally indefensible positions. Anyway, but yeah, it's kind of like, I forget how we started off on this tangent, but yeah, I think the point I'm making is that kind of like, I think people don't want to admit that actually I might just strongly feel nervous about a vaccine or something like that, and then I look for things to support that. And look, it's fine to feel like, personally nervous about something, or if you're not sure or whatever, it's your health. It's your own thoughts, I guess, but probably better to, if you can get vaccinated for everyone else is sort of good and all the rest of it. But I think, people do have their own built-in beliefs and about various other things. I'm not just getting onto that one, but it's kind of like, when you try and rationalise that as like, I know best, but everyone else is an idiot because I haven't researched it properly. Well, no, actually, I think for a lot of this stuff, they're just pandering to what they innately believe and their own sort of illogical conclusions that they're drawing.
I think the thing is that these people don't like showing fear or weakness weirdly. I don't really mind doing it, but people don't, and people will have now got a good out. Rather than just saying I'm scared about.
Yeah,
this is a scary time. This global pandemic. I'm scared. I don't know what's going on. I'm scared about this vaccine. I'm scared about having this thing in my body. I'm scared and I don't know what to do, which is an absolutely rational place to be.
Absolutely.
So rather than just admitting that, then people can find anything to defend or argue for any position you take on the internet, and then they can use that to say that's why I feel this way, rather than just going, look, hands up, I'm fucking scared because none of us have lived through this before, and it's scary, and I'm scared about having the vaccine because I'm scared. Like, that's it, and that's absolutely fine to be scared. You don't have to then go looking for a reason not to have it. You can just go, look, I'm not having it at the moment because I'm fucking scared.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
I'm scared of what it'll do to my body. I'm scared of putting stuff in my body. I don't really understand the vaccine. Like, are you putting some of this illness in me because people are dying from it? What's going on?
Yeah.
They just go, right, let's go and look up a reason not to do it.
No, agreed, and I think that's where a lot of this stuff stems from. But anyway, there you go. And talking of that kind of sort of thing, I'm desperately trying to segue back into the new Coke story. That people were scared to move away from the gorgeous original brand of Coke. Apparently,
we've never been through this before. A new Coke, we're scared. We know our grandparents had to go through the removal
in the middle of the Cold War. It could all be over at any minute now. Last thing I want to do is be drinking
a new Coke,
new type of Coke. I mean, good Lord,
we could get bombs at any time. What? And the last thing I will have drunk is one of these new Cokes.
Oh, terrible!
I want as the bomb drops, I want to be sipping on the Coke that makes me feel comfortable as I dissolve away from this mortal coil.
But and then this is the thing: is a lot of people did, they were basically advocates for not wanting to change this stuff, and that's what caused a lot of the emotion. Anyway, where we'd got onto then in terms of the conspiracy theories was all okay. Yeah, was it that they just wanted to sort of it was like a clever long game. They're just doing a bit of 4D chess so that they could bring out something worse and then bring back the original one and people will buy it more. And if that's the case, it worked. Or they wanted to change it across for some other.
Did it work as? So has someone done the figures? So the amount that they lost because people were buying less of the new Coke, was that then compensated for plus more?
Over the years, it will undoubtedly have been more because they were
How long did the bounce back to the Coke work?
Well, I think it was only out for about a year or so before they switched tack, so they couldn't have hit their overall market share that hard.
Right.
And because they literally within like 3 months they came out with Classic Coke, which some people were, but they think it was kind of like a hardcore of people who really hated the Coke, who then and then they started to influence the other people. So then once you bring back the original one, everyone just starts drinking that instead. So, but there
was just a bunch of fifth columnists bought by Coca-Cola, like nudging people in the street, going, "He's right, this classic Coke, the old Coke, was much better. We should start bringing in, yeah."
Yeah, and that was the thing as well, because the thing with the high fructose corn syrup as well. Apparently, this was partly down to people swearing that when they brought back the original, it wasn't the original one. It definitely tastes different. Anyway, so all those soft drink sommeliers out there. Yeah, exactly. This is a slightly different type of overly sweet thing.
Stuff is round.
I mean, the one thing with the theory about the high fructose corn syrup, that's reasonably demonstrably false, because actually that was just more down to the costs of things. So apparently, I think it was about a year beforehand, they'd already said that people could put in I think the way it works is a bit like a franchise operation with Coke, so that there are bottling plants who mix the stuff together and bottle it, or can it, I guess. And they were allowed to use up to 50% high fructose corn syrup, and then that went up to 100 because it was saved the money. So they reckon that most of them had sort of switched over by that point as well. So, and the other thing
they're not allowed to use high fructose corn syrup in the EU, are they? It's North America.
It's in loads of things in the US because they grow so much of it. But I don't know, to be honest with you, Chris. Which
is why a lot of the stuff like chocolate and all that kind of stuff, and sweets taste different in Europe than in the US, because they just put high fructose corn syrup in everything, and we don't use it. It's banned, I think, because it's so unhealthy.
Yeah, no, I think it's kind of like, or supposedly it's, it's
good for the old obesity.
Yes, exactly. But yeah, I mean, and the thing is, I think that the general consensus is that so the high fructose corn syrup thing, I think, is probably almost certainly false. But could you put it past them to have sort of done the whole thing on purpose just to increase their market share?
I mean, it's a bold ploy if they did.
Yeah, and I think I'm
not sure they would have taken that. I mean, it's a risk, though, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, everything around the fact that the fact that they were canning the old versions and then waiting to sort of sell more and more of it, that is absolutely debunkable and it's complete sort of nonsense. And that normally when you get into this kind of a thing, it would normally be it could sort of begin to tank a brand. But as the president said afterwards, so some critics will say Coca-Cola made a marketing mistake, and some cynics will say we planned the whole thing. The truth is, we're not that dumb and we're not that smart. So, I mean, their official take on it is that actually, and Snopes has come out and said, well, no, this is kind of like a false rumor. And just
would it be fair for me to say this was one of our less spooky ones?
Well, you want spookiness? Let me just let me read out. Let me read out this.
Unless cocaine fueled.
This
conservative.
This piece of marketing spiel to you. The simple fact is that all the time and money and skill poured into consumer research on the Coca-Cola could not measure or reveal the deep and abiding emotional attachment to original Coca-Cola felt by so many people. The passion for original Coca-Cola, and that is the word for it, passion, was something that caught us by surprise. It is a wonderful American mystery, a lovely American enigma, and you cannot measure it any more than you can measure love, pride, or patriotism. Did that not chill you to your very fucking bones?
Yeah, I've actually left my body.
That was quite spooky, wasn't it? Yeah, so I mean, I think there's, I mean, we'll get into it, I guess, but it's just a fun little story, I think, and it's funny because I mean, I can't remember as well. It's something so they rebranded it to Coke 2, and then it surprisingly it was still around to like 2002 apparently. When they originally got rid of it, I don't think this was ever available.
They had like a load of old cases that they were still selling in.
Yeah, and actually, ironically, it's probably really expensive. You probably like cases of Coke 2 that you get for a grand on eBay or something now.
Like criminals were buying it as well as artwork to launder money to make drug deals.
It's the original cryptocurrency, Chris. Yeah, but I suppose it's possible. It's possible that they that the whole thing was just a massive scam that they did to increase their market share. I don't think I kind of not sure the execs would have been that smart, but it's interesting as well that what was actually a massive balls up they just fell off backwards into a massive success.
Well, it's white privilege for you, isn't it? Failed upwards.
Well, So there you go, the story of your cake.
Right. So, should we go through our scoring system?
Yes, let's.
Right. So, Neil, I'll let you go first for spooky.
Well, yeah, I mean, to be honest with you, and again, this is the thing with bringing in one of these ones that's more of a bit of a, from a conspiracy theory is not quite the right word either, but, it's something that still gets debated. Because you can still read about New Coke for years and years after. I mean, 20 years, I think, when they discontinued it, and 30 years after.
I take the piss out of it on loads of American comedies.
Yeah, I mean, it still resonates. It was, before many people.
It's kind of seen as a touchstone of a bad idea by a company.
Yeah, and there's probably something quite nice as well about seeing a huge company just cock up so much, just...
Well, if they can, I don't feel so bad about running that person over when I was drinking.
It could happen to couldn't it? That's one more off the Yeah, it's like... Well, obviously this isn't terribly spooky. So again, it's one of those ones where it's kind of less than that. I mean, the one thing I will say that I think is... I mean, yeah, so the idea... But, well, the idea that... I suppose that I'm gonna give it not a completely low score here for a couple of reasons. just inherently, I think the notion that, you'd have these kind of puppet masters who can just, control people's feelings, and also the idea that people have an emotional attachment to a soft drink is mildly spooky to me, to be honest with you. So I'm going to give it a 4.
Okay. It's quite Edward Bernaysian, isn't it? If you think that, because he was like the father of advertising and got people to smoke because it was good, or like attached.
Clears out the T-zone.
Because women weren't smoking enough, so he made Lucky Strike cigarettes like a symbol of feminism and that kind of.
No, we've noticed you stopped your intake of tobacco and you're pregnant. But the womb enjoys the corroborative vapours.
So he was kind of the father of all that kind of stuff, wasn't he? He was like, I think he was Sigmund Freud's nephew or something. But he was the one who kind of came up.
He was the guy in the Adam Curtis documentary, was he? They did it about how we made the modern world or whatever. Yeah.
I mean, it's not very spooky, but I think an attachment to a brand is, I don't know. People like what they like, and people feel comforted by getting what they know, don't they? So, but capitalism is inherently spooky, or kind of hyper-capitalism. So, I mean, I'm going to give it a 2. That's as high as I can go.
Fair enough.
Well, I mean, it's not beyond the realms of possibility that they did this. Well, I mean, I would say that I don't think it happens, and the reason being because it's a hell of a gamble when you've already got a very high market share of
you're the market leader,
drink market, to purposely tank your company slightly to then bring something back to get. I don't know. I don't think that would have got signed off. Like, it's a bit. You could see it. I mean. No, I mean, maybe if you were... No, I just can't see... I can't see any company ever doing that because the risk's too high and you've got shareholders. But I mean, there's
managed. Mind you, didn't work out very well for him in the long term.
But there's nothing sort of paranormal or anything here. So, I mean, it's believable as in... It could happen, so that gives it believability, but I don't think it did happen. It's difficult. I'd give it a 4 for believability, Neil.
Yeah, I'll probably split the middle on this because, as you say, I think, compared to a lot of the stuff that we look at as well, it's not inherently unbelievable, but it would be a hell of a risk and a hell of a savvy play. And I think it's quite interesting just as a story to see how it came out of a lot of decisions that in theory should have been were thought through. It wasn't just some, egomaniacal person in senior management who said, well, we're going to do this because it's my vision. They did.
Do you know where I reckon it's come from? I reckon that someone who was involved in the decision to do this was at a party or something, and someone was taking the piss out of them, going, oh, yeah, good idea with the new Coke. You have to go back. And then they probably on the fly went, oh, did we? Or was that our plan all along?
What's the market share now? Up 10% year on year?
Yeah, exactly. So I reckon it's probably just someone saying that somewhere to sort of, because they were sick of people taking the piss out of them.
No, I think this has, again, this is why I put it in the medical category. I think this has grown organically. It's just people because people don't want to sort of, or just people naturally are cynical of any kind of thing. And it's like, oh, you think that's the official narrative, do you? Oh, you're that naive. Can't believe you fell for that. as if.
I'm working on a different level to you.
Yeah. Playing 4D chess, with checkerboard out. I don't think that joke was so much, but I can't remember who from. But no, it's I think it's just people like to believe in that kind of thing. There's never a simple, straightforward explanation. It's interesting, and again, it wasn't just a hubristic decision. It was, there was a lot of hubristic commentary beforehand, but it was based on, they'd obviously done all their market research, and they thought they had they'd verified, and they got a new better product to put in, and it just backfired, and then they just reversed, and they were a big enough company. It's fine, and it all worked out fine in the end. So no, I don't believe that it did happen. I think there's quite a lot of evidence, more or less demonstrable, that it didn't. But it could be. You could see it happening, and you can see why people would believe that, because they're very cynical about the motives of sort of corporations and stuff. So for that reason, I'm going to give it a 5.
Okay, reach, Neil. And this is the reach of the conspiracy, not the reach of New Coke.
Oh, okay. So it's probably. Oh, right. Well, no, because I think the only reason that people know about New Coke is because of the conspiracy now, I think. And this is what it tends to get talked about in the light of. You're looking at me puzzled and don't agree with that, obviously, Chris. But no, or maybe just the fact that it went, tits up is the reason why it's more held up these days. I thought that this, weirdly enough, a lot of these you tend to have heard of them, and I haven't. This is one I just knew about beforehand, and so I sort of thought we'd slot it in something a little bit different. I thought this one was quite well known. I don't know. I mean, certainly if you look up New Coke, you will see references to the fact that they was it all done on purpose, etc. So it's, given that it was a soft drink change that happened 40 years ago, and it's still being talked about today, it's obviously never going to be something where it has a massive reach, or but it's something that has stuck around, and people do still debate as to whether or not that was what actually happened, and it definitely tasted different beforehand, blah blah blah. So I'm going to give it a 4.
Okay, 4. So I've heard of New Coke, and my understanding was it was just a bit of a disaster, and then they went back to the other one. So New Coke I'm aware of, but I wasn't aware of any of this conspiracy that they'd done it on purpose or anything. Nor have I kind of seen or read anything about it.
Yeah, but you think they landed on the moon, Chris? You didn't know nothing.
Well, did you give it a 4?
Yeah.
I mean, I've not heard tale of corporate conspiracy here, but I'm happy to go with you as you've heard of it. But I'm going to give it a 3.
Yeah, it's fine. I'm not wedded to it. I'm not wedded to it. I don't care. It's above me.
And narrative premise. So
just wait until you see the score I'll get for my next Urban Myth, Chris. After this shit one.
What's that? The pork pie affair.
Yeah. Be 40 points each all round.
So narrative premise. Well, there is a narrative of corporate hubris. The narrative is that it's something that happened. I guess that the premise of the conspiracy is they did it on purpose, but there's not a huge amount there. Although, if they did do it on purpose, it turned out well, I guess. But there's not a huge amount here from a narrative premise point of view, apart from, see, look, people who are CEOs are cleverer than the rest of us, which is what it's kind of meant to be. Yeah. So again, it's going to be a 3 from me. Neil? Yeah,
not a huge amount of natural. I mean, it's the interesting twist, but again, it's that, immediately sort of faux cynical. Oh, well, no, actually, wheels within wheels. Don't you get the real story? And actually, that's far less interesting than reality, which is just that actually they did probably do most of their due diligence, but they still fucked it up because they are all they're all fallible.
They didn't realise how in love with Coke people were.
And it shows as well, I think, you can do all the market research and supposedly scientific blind taste testing you like. A lot of this stuff is based on intangibles, and that's what sort of puts it in. So, but there you go. And I think, there are some interesting aspects you could do on there, but it's, so there's something, there's not nothing, but I think it'd make maybe an interesting 1-hour documentary or possibly a film. You ain't going to get a series out of this. So I'm going to give it a 4.
4. So that gives us an overall total of 29 urban legend points. So that's all right. It's not our lowest.
I never thought it was going to be one of the 2 high scoring ones. Just wanted a change of pace this week, Chris.
That's absolutely fine, Neil. It's as much for your enjoyment as it is for the viewers.
Don't want to run out of cryptids too soon because we like them.
I don't think that's possible.
There's a lot of. I'll tell you what. The other thing I was looking at. There's a lot of big fella type fellas knocking around. It's he's like the Bigfoot, but he's mainly based out of Washington DC or whatever, or he's
he's like the Bigfoot, but he lives in early.
Yeah, he lives with his mum
and he
in
wears
New
army
Hampshire.
fatigues. There's a lot of Bigfoot and Bigfoot adjacent style creatures, but we haven't touched any of them yet. So
no, we might start moving towards Bigfoot 3 Bigfoot adjacent creatures, I think.
I was thinking that could just be all of Series 4.
Yeah, just the big. Yeah, we could do like a mini one and just do investigations into the various flavors of Bigfoot.
Men, yeah.
Well, we are. I think we would most resemble either Frankenstein's monster or a Bigfoot.
What, us as people?
Both quite big and hairy. Yeah.
Yeah, that is true. Maybe that's why. Wink, wink. We haven't been looking too deep into it, as we don't want to. we don't want to blow our cover. We're trying to deflect attention away from our people. So I will say, good luck, Ukraine. Keep fighting the good fight, and thoughts are with you and everything. And if anyone is able to chip a bit of money over their way, then do so. There's plenty of charities doing stuff. But beyond that, that if you have a successful recipe, don't go changing people. And I will see you next week. Goodbye.
Bye.